I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and guess what? This ain't Vegas.
Are you sure?
I better look again.
Do you know Vegas is really good at like illusions?
Well, it hasn't been that good because I've been in Vegas
Unless
for
it
the
was
last
all-
3 or 4 weeks, and I didn't see anything illusory except me being there.
No, the only thing illusory was that you were wishing you were home and you actually weren't.
I left my heart in San Francisco.
Well, then we're not
This
in
is
San
so
Francisco.
exciting.
Thank you.
No, it really
And
is.
Your name is?
Gilmore Gang.
Mr. Gang, what a pleasure to see you.
No, it really is a pleasure to be on the inside, looking out into CRM
Biz.
Playaz,
I
the
was-
actual ground zero of what this is and when it
You
happened.
realize how bad that actually sounds?
No, he does realize that. All right, Steve Gilmore,
That's me.
Gilmore Gang, and I already forgot the title.
What is it now?
Head of Technical Media Strategy.
Head of Technical Media Strategies for,
Salesforce.
there it is, which is why we're here actually.
For what? Media strategy?
We could actually use some media strategy.
Yeah, can
but
you
it's
help us, please?
Trailhead DX. Is it Trailhead X or
DX.
Trailhead DX?
No, but here's the thing. It's not Trailhead DX, it's Trailhead DX. Or else it's Trailhead X. Which is it?
I think it's the first.
Trailhead?
All right, this has already gotten off the rails.
Oh, really? How can you tell?
Congratulations, Steve. Congratulations. We set a new record of
Well,
going
it should
completely
go off the rails
rails.
with Steve Gilmore
That's
because
right.
it actually got on the rails. See how I did that?
Whoa, that's a segue.
I impressed
in a way.
myself on that one.
Me too.
But you are one of
I am one of the originals.
the originals for podcasting, video podcasting.
And a lot of other things that you're an original for too.
Yeah, but we can't get into that legally.
All right. So first of all, it's hard to even do a straight. Thanks for joining us. Are you getting product placement with this too? or-
Oh, God, I hope so. I just want them to do a Coke Classic with no caffeine.
What do you
I don't think it's-
You're
yeah,
in
I don't think
Atlanta,
it's
so
in the
you would
cards.
know. What do you
I'll-
think?
I'll go right to the headquarters and.
Can you
put a
take
word in
care of
for
that
it.
for him?
It might take a decade or two.
So, Trailhead DX, how's that going for you?
Wait a minute. He's already turning the
know.
questions on us.
You
We're
see?
not.
See how that
We're not that bad at
Yeah.
this. We've done this. Look, you've done it like what? 105 years. We've done it 10.
Yeah.
So
And we've actually been on
That's right.
the
That's
Enterprise
right.
Gang.
No, the
The
Enterprise
Enterprise
Gang
Gang.
and the Gilmore Gang.
That's right.
Well, I never made the big leagues.
Well, here's the secret. There's only one show. We call
Right.
it different things. So
Depending-
yes, you have.
Yeah,
different
exactly.
thing. Is that like different strokes? 'Cause
Yeah. I used to like that show.
Yeah. I didn't because people used to say I looked like. And I'm not kidding. A little kid called me albino Gary Coleman when I was.
No.
I'm not kidding.
Wow.
How would I not remember something like that?
Oh my God.
Which part do you not like?
Coleman.
Can I just go across the board? All right.
If you had to pick 2 out of 3.
All right. He's so
I
subtle
know.
about taking
He's
control
really
of
good
this
at
whole
things.
thing.
He's really good at it.
All
That's
right,
why
we-
he's lasted 25 years.
We're going to grab control
That's
back
right.
from Mr. Gilmore. Okay, so
And you're Brent Leary?
yeah. I don't know where to go anymore.
When did you come up with this CRM?
There
thing?
it is.
You see, there's a very small
sorry,
window
though.
where you can just jump in and.
All
I'm
right,
sorry, we can't legally say anything about
Yeah,
that.
that's right. We are. Yeah. All right. What year did you start the Gilmore Gang?
I don't know, actually. 2004, maybe?
What made you
Something
even
like that.
interested in starting it?
It was revenge, mostly.
Revenge?
Revenge.
For what?
Well, you were referring to the birth of podcasting, which
Right.
was largely Dave Weiner adding, well, he invented RSS, or
Right.
what came to be the canonical version of it. And then he added an attachment to the format, which allowed you to attach attachments, aka small binary code. such
AKA
as what you're doing right now.
A file, a media file.
Yeah, a media file. And between those two events, RSS and podcasting, he basically disrupted the entire media.
I'm not sure where that goes to revenge yet.
Oh, well, I was in the entire media at the time. I was at InfoWorld, and there was a change of authority. And suddenly, even though we had been doing exactly what we wanted to, I was no longer at InfoWorld. So I decided to hook up with all the people that I knew from the trade press. Some of them who had been editors with me, John Udell specifically, Dan Farber, who's now at Salesforce, and a whole bunch of people. And basically we decided to take a conversation that we were having and on the phone and record it. That was the Gilmore Gang, yeah.
What was that first conversation?
Well, Udell was very
That's amazing.
pragmatic. He can explain really arcane coding stuff in a way that I find amazing. I learned much more than I wanted to about this specific technology. And so I liked the way that we kind of went back and forth. And it grew. Then there were people like Mark Benioff who would show up occasionally. In fact, I think the first time we did a video, I was talking with Mark at a conference, Web 2.0 Summit. Remember that?
Yeah, of course.
And I was interested in, we were talking about the iPod, or the iPhone.
It just come out?
And he didn't really care about anything except the fact that it would allow him to be able to watch video wherever he was. And he said, you know, if you do this on video, I'll be your first guest. So I went up with a Steadicam basically up to the old headquarters on Landmark and filmed him talking to all of us on the phone, and that was sort of the forerunner of the video version.
Wait, how could you film him talking to all of you on the phone if you were there?
Because I was there
on the phone. But
I was there in his office.
I get that. But you said all of us on the phone, which meant you were on the phone.
Well, I'm extrapolating to the other people in the game.
I was just like, you know, I'm making sure we can keep control.
I'm having a hard
over
time, you know.
And I'm just making sure
questions.
we can keep control over this.
Thank
thing.
you.
So
You're doing a really good job, unfortunately.
All right. So that was the transition to video. You kind of chalked it up to Mark Benioff saying, if you do this in video, I'll be your first guest.
No, he said, if you do this in video, I'll be your first guest.
So it was his idea.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
So
Mark is like that.
So he's your first guest.
On video.
On video.
Right.
So how many pure audio podcasts had you done by that time?
You know, this was, you know, my dates are going to be off.
Yeah, just what, 30, 100?
Like 50 a year for maybe 3 or 4 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So you were already like in full gear.
Well, there was this whole podcasting community. There were a bunch of people that, there's a guy named Dave Slusher who does Evil Genius Chronicles, give you an idea of
that was
where
the
he's
name
coming
of his
from.
podcast?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he's resolutely opposed to any kind of normal stuff. So that was one touchstone. And then there were people all over the place. And then there was, you know, Doug Kay was really the pioneer of this because the range of his interviews, that's how I originally started, is he interviewed me. And then I said, you know, this is kind of interesting. Would you produce this and we'll bring in everybody? And he said, sure. So he was the producer for the first about a year, I think.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So how did you, back then, you know, distribute it, broadcast it? What did you do?
Well, this is what podcasting was.
No, but I know, I understand that, but how did you create the avenues that people could listen to it? Because you ultimately had to be known. There might be a place
I was
to be.
like I said, I was in the trade press.
So you put it out there?
InfoWorld, and I worked at doing an online version of that. I wrote the back page for InfoWorld, so I had a certain visibility.
Right. So you're able to use the visibility to get people to start tuning in.
Yeah, and it was also using the kind of intersection of, in your case, sports, but in my case, music, rock and roll, technology,
comedy,
and then the enterprise. Just mixing that together in some way. That goes back to my history with a group called the Firesign Theater.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that? Because, for me, of course, being of that age, I remember the Firesign Theater were my gods when I was young. And to me, even to this day, if I'm looking at contemporary comedy and I'm looking at kind of its history over the last 50, 60 years, and you're looking at, I'm talking about US and UK, really. I'm talking about Benny Hill and Monty Python. I'm talking about in the US.
The Goon Show basically was the forerunner of all of this.
And then you look at Steve Martin and all these other people even now. But that kind of completely, being very polite when I use this word, offbeat humor that the Firesign Theater had, I mean, it was completely different than anything at that point that I had ever been exposed to. And you can see the elements of their humor in everything I just mentioned. I mean, clearly they were arguably, at least I can make the case if nobody else, that they were the pioneers of contemporary humor. If I had to pick one group, and they're not recognized that way though.
There was a really interesting feedback loop that went on, because all the people you're talking about, the Beatles, all of them, they were known sort of as the first rock group that didn't play instruments.
Right.
They were. But the thing that was interesting to me, obviously, they were heroes of mine before I knew them. But the thing that was interesting was that as you understood how that world developed, you understood that it's like when people meet, like, well, if I hadn't been at this place and this hadn't gone right and this hadn't gone wrong, we never would have met, and now here are these human beings that are a result. I have 2 daughters. We have 2 daughters. So that was going on in this 60s, 70s kind of melting pot. There was a lot of cross-fertilization of things. And one of the things about the Firesign was that because of a sort of an accident of their record deal, they got a deal with Columbia that allowed them basically to charge off all studio time to the record company, which invented this style that has really been passed forward in so many different media ways.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have any, this is just for show notes later, do you have links to any public Firesign Theater stuff that you could provide that we can put into the show notes?
Yeah, I think there's, if you just search on that, I directed their first film, which is called The Martian Space Party.
Yeah, I believe me, there was nothing of theirs I didn't see or listen to.
There was something that's on the web, or some of it's on the web.
Okay.
And some of the records, in fact, probably all of them are on the web as YouTube files.
I bought that whole remastered set when it came out not too long ago.
So let's say that was you were in the golden age of the beginning of podcasting and video and all that.
And the beginning of contemporary comedy.
Can we talk a little bit about what you are doing right now? Because it's really interesting. Particularly what we talked about LinkedIn and just the way that you're starting to develop this relationship with not only customers, which is why Salesforce is particularly excited about what you're doing, but also in terms of this kind of relationship influencer environment, which I know you're one of the experts in whole CRM world about.
Wow.
Can you kind of fold
He
us?
just can't help himself.
You are
can he?
incorrigible.
No, but can't you give us a little bit of that? It doesn't have to
I think
all be
you got to keep
hilarious.
in mind, though. No, not very little of this has been hilarious.
I was ready to say,
you.
when will the hilarity begin?
Yeah, we'll get back to you.
You got to realize, probably everyone listening to the show has heard most of our stuff for 10 years. They probably know the answers to that already. As
Well, I think it's
you
getting
probably
better. I
do.
really do.
No, I think it is too. Okay.
I know it
There you
is.
go. Yeah. It is getting better. There's your answer. Okay, now we'll take back control. All right, so here's the thing.
So you will
So-
at some point mention that?
Yeah, in 2020.
That will be for a Gilmore Gang episode or something.
Okay, well,
And of
Who's
course,
to
you
say
know what
this
happened on
isn't?
that. We'll be asking you questions on the Gilmore Gang.
okay, well,
You
I'm good with that.
and if you don't
Trust
if you don't answer them, we'll just ask Tina the questions, and she'll get you to answer them.
Maybe.
Oh, she's tough.
Oh, yeah.
She is tough.
All
She
right.
is one of the best.
The dodge is over.
Yeah.
All right. So, as I was saying before, so what do you compare the current state of what you do, what we do, the video,
Broadcast.
the podcast? How does it compare to like the golden age? Is this a second kind of golden age going on right now?
Well, I mean, the numbers are just extraordinary. There's this podcasting wave is 40,000 in the last 6 months. Something, I don't know.
40,000.
The numbers are crazy.
Wow.
But so obviously this is a golden age. I liken it very much. In fact, I think there's a lot of relevance to the streaming binge television, what they call peak TV. I think that we're experiencing that in terms of audio, radio, podcasting as well. So yeah, it's a golden age in the sense that all you need is a phone, basically. I mean, I've kind of resurrected the Gilmore Gang on audio with something called GGX, and using a software product called Anchor.
Yeah, really good one.
And I mean, it's extraordinary what between that Anchor and GarageBand, which is basically free on iOS devices as well as the Mac. I've been able to boil it all down to the iPad.
Wow.
So between the phone and the iPad and some of their EQ and echo reverb, it sounds amazing. I mean, as far as the technology is concerned.
So I was looking at this study. It's from one of the marketing organizations, you know, the ones that are always issuing market research on marketing. I can't remember which. But it was on basically trusting advertising, more or less. And it turns out that the most trusted advertising, not anything on social media is just pretty much not trusted, and anything on TV pretty much is. I mean, TV is by far the medium where people trust the advertising more than anyone else by a long shot, which struck me interesting because it's very traditional media. I'm not sure the reason for it, but how do you take something like that, given we're talking about this explosion and, you know, when it comes to companies, an incredible amount of, or the beginnings of an incredible amount of investment in these new forms of broadcast, and yet people still trust TV the most when it comes to the products they're looking at.
Well, I mean,
relative
look
to
at
the
what
other.
you're doing. I mean, you talk about TV as though it's this somehow a separate thing. I mean, you're doing this on your iPad. I mean, this is an incredible device.
You're not kidding.
And it's so smart in terms of the way that it actually technically works. And it's got how many pixels for the full?
You can do 1080 or
You can do 1080.
you can do 1080, and I think you could actually go as high as 4K with the latest one.
Wow.
Exactly. But then it's got this capability, which I
Oh, the
noticed.
multi-view, yeah.
Yeah, where you're essentially cutting to a smaller resolution, but it's still effectively
Yeah.
HD.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is a brilliant use of. I mean, when we were doing the Firestein records, we were spending upwards of I don't know, $30,000 to $50,000, and that was a short or a cheap record.
In those days.
In those days. I mean, I think the whole budget of the film was like $5,000 in cash, and a recording truck that Columbia rolled in, where we then remixed it and added music. So these kinds of techniques are in a direct lineage from the golden age of the beginning of podcasting and the beginning of recording and comedy and music. And you can see how this has exploded in terms of the ability. I mean, I've been obviously thinking a lot about this. The ability to be able to have an idea, no matter how trivial or potentially important, and be able to nurture it and then deliver it, and then find an audience, which is why I was asking you about the thing you won't talk about, about how you're distributing and influencing and growing an audience. These are very powerful strategies that I think are going to, well, you tell me, aren't they going to define the next age of CRM?
You know what? I'm just what's the word? I'm just a talking head, right? I don't know. I mean, CRM itself is pretty much gone, right?
Well, it's gotten kind of big, hasn't it?
No, it's not that. It's a great industry, and it's an industry that will be here for a long time. But its original idea has morphed to something else entirely. It's pretty much now the operational technology that drives customer-facing departments, and is critically important for larger engagement with customers. It's like e-commerce is the transactional part, CRM's the operational piece, and it's going to keep growing. It's growing year over year, but it's not. It's hard to talk about it in terms of next gen in the sense of bigger idea. It's a mature idea. It's going to keep evolving. It's be incremental evolution, and it will be always useful, right? But it's not going to blow the doors off of new generations of content distribution and creation and consumption. It's going to run operations, and it does a great job with that. And and you can't do without it.
So who listens to CRM Playaz? Do you know who you're talking to?
Yeah, mostly ourselves.
Well, all right. So I will say this.
Who are you?
That's a good question.
Keith Wintley, I'm Paul Greenberg, and we are the CRM Playaz.
I will give him this.
All right.
The reason that we probably know a little bit more about who listens to us now than we did even at the beginning of 2019 is because of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We put up a couple of little clips from these conversations. Pick something we think is interesting or funny or whatever, and put it up on LinkedIn. And what you find is, well, surprised that anybody's actually watching this for first thing, but you can see the number of views. But what's probably even more important is you get a list of like the views from the top 10 company views. So you can see, okay, these are the folks at these companies are watching this. And you can see their titles, and then you can see their geography. So before beginning of this year, we didn't know any of that stuff.
No.
But
It's
now
kind of like a living and breathing thing, isn't it?
it is, and I would say this too. You're seeing more comments now, and but because LinkedIn has a built-in business audience, and we already have connections, thousands of connections.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that makes a big difference.
And we have 10 years of history too, which matters, in that regard. And from our standpoint, we have people who have followed us all 10 years.
You gonna tell the story about?
Yeah, I should. That's a good idea.
All right, let me give you a close-up.
All right,
there you go.
Zoom in.
Now, don't get nervous.
Yeah, I'm terrified. This is the BPM Online story. I was in Kiev, literally. This is 2013 or 2014 or 2015. I'm as good with years as you are, right? In this, I'm just not. And they were opening a new building in Kiev, CBPM Online. They just bought a 7-story building in Kiev. They've just grown enormously, and that was their headquarters. Now they're in the U.S. So I flew to Kiev basically to cut the ribbon and to speak, right? And I actually literally cut a ribbon. And and anyway, I was speaking prior to the event. I was speaking to their entire staff, which at the time was 350. Now it's about 1,000. But I was speaking to the entire staff, and I was done with my presentation, and I took questions. And in the back corner of the room, it was pretty far away, this Indian guy raises his hand and says, "I have a question." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "When are you and Brent Leary going to do your next episode of CRM Playaz?" I mean, this is a random Indian guy in Kiev asking me that question. I was so flabbergasted, I stopped questions to tell him, while I'm standing there, "You won't believe this." Right? But that actually, I find that, not so much that one's really strange, but I do find evidence a fair amount of times of people who just know us from watching the Playaz. And I'll talk to someone, "Well, we do this thing this year in Playaz," and they'll go, "Oh yeah, I watch your videos all the time." And
that's kind of weird when
Yeah.
you meet somebody for the first time and they know you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
well,
kind
you've
of
had
I
50
get
years
into-
of that.
50, thanks.
I'm being nice.
You know, it happens a lot where I'll tell you how it really happens. I'll be talking to somebody and somebody says, "Hey, come over here. I want you to meet," you know, and they start talking to me, and eventually they start to say who I am, and the guy says, "Yeah, I know who he is," and they
No, this.
just think of
move on.
me as
Yeah.
no, they think of me as somebody that they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only difference between, you know, once I understand that, I actually feel like I do know them, because I've always felt, that's one of the things that's really exciting about podcasting, is basically I'm just talking to somebody who is a lot like me. In other words, if I like what's going on,
They're
they're
gonna like
probably going to
Yeah.
like what's going
That's-
on.
I'm the same.
Not definitely, but probably.
chances are.
The way
And so you start to get this kind of sense of shared experience from people, and you do actually know them,
Yeah.
having met them only for the first time.
you know that what you just said, I think is so fundamental about if I like what's going on, I know the way I've always defined it, my tastes are completely ordinary. So as long as I understand my own taste, I can understand anyone's, and so I can build to that, right?
The problem is that, you know, when I don't like what's going on, I'm not happy.
Well, either
because
they-
I figure nobody likes it.
Well, you're probably right.
I'm sure I'm
That's
right.
the thing. You're probably right.
Yeah. So what do?
Well, you can't do anything about that one. You just kind of roll with
So
it.
you're sort of sitting there?
Yeah, well, no. Look, I'll give
Wait,
you-
at least you
but
guys
see-
have got each other.
Well, yeah,
I'm
but
just
look, I'll
stuck.
tell you, with you, no, you have somebody. Better acknowledge this quick guess.
It's obvious what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, well,
I'm not. Am I going to go for the obvious?
I'll go for the obvious for
Okay.
you. Tina,
Yes.
right? You got her.
Oh, I thought you were
My
going to say
better
Esteban.
half.
Yeah, Esteban. No, not you.
Well, Esteban is a close second.
So here's the thing. So when I bring your name up, which I do a pretty good amount of times,
Lucky.
I always get people who go, "He's the Gilmore Gang." I get that a lot about you. Not his Salesforce. He's the Gilmore Gang. Everyone has seen that thing.
But
And-
Salesforce hired me.
Yeah, no.
So
that's-
what does that say about Salesforce?
They're smart.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what it
so.
says about Salesforce. Really smart. Well, you know, look. I
You
don't-
know some of the people at Salesforce. You wrote a great article about mentioning John Toshek. You know, John was a competitor of mine.
I know.
Uh,
Computer World.
He was running
eWeek.
no, well, yeah,
Back
eWeek.
then,
He was
eWeek.
running eWeek Labs when I was running the test center at InfoWorld.
I read
and
your
those
book.
of us who actually know what the test center at InfoWorld was, it was entirely in the imagination. Whereas what John was doing was the real thing. So I became his friend just defensively.
Wow.
But he's blossomed into, you know, there's reach knows no bounds now.
Now we
But-
got to get him to write more.
What?
We got to get him to write more.
Yeah, well, that's his problem, not yours.
No, it's mine too. I loved
Really?
his writing.
Oh, no, it's fantastic.
That's why I want to see. I want to have the right to. I want to have the ability to read
I didn't
it.
say that, it's his problem that he doesn't write
Right.
enough.
So, but I figure I can be a catalyst to get him
Well,
to write. I
I'm
just
a-
write another book in it and get it forward written by him.
If you want to see him write more, I want to see him actually do his music.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm one of the few that actually knows how good he is. And, I'm an amateur about music. I'm not trained as a musician. I've been a producer
Yeah,
for
well,
many
yeah,
years.
a lot of-
And I've been around a lot of the world's greatest musicians.
Yes, you have.
And John has this, it's very ironic because he doesn't realize
No.
how good he is. But he's got this wonderful feel. Have you heard any of his songs?
Yeah, a few years ago, he shared with me some tracks.
Me too.
And I was like, man, this is really interesting.
He's just. He does he do any more? Has he been doing it?
He played me something a month or so ago that he was saying that it was he couldn't tell whether it was a verse or a chorus or both, and I pointed out that there's a John Lennon song, "Give Me Some Truth."
Yeah.
Same thing.
Oh, that's it.
Is it a verse or is it a chorus, or both?
You know what? I could never see. That's where where you produce music, so you can probably. I can't even.
Well, I haven't produced music in a long time.
Yeah, but you did. I mean, meaning you know how you know what you did, right? And you know how to do it. I wouldn't even know how to do it. I wouldn't even know how to think about that actual question, other than to
Well,
parrot it
I know a lot
exactly.
of really, really good producers. I just saw John Simon, who was the guy who produced the first 2 band records.
Oh my God!
And this guy,
Oh my God!
he's unbelievable. He plays a song called "Living in the Land of Sunshine" that I filmed about 40 years ago.
Wow.
And it's just beautiful. I think I'm going to just pull it out of the archive and put it on the show one day.
There you go.
Living in the Land of
people,
Sunshine.
Yeah, it's just a gorgeous song that he wrote, and on the piano. These people are magic, and
Yeah, they are.
being a producer is just being lucky to be in the room.
Yeah, but you help make the magic. You do.
No, not really.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, you
These
do.
guys,
You're just a humble
I
person.
mean, you know the difference. At least I've been in the room.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, just to be in the room is cool.
Oh my God.
I mean, what do you think about? You don't have to be a football star to be on the Rams, right?
No, thank God.
No, but seriously.
I've been on the Rams since I was 5. So
And what is that about? Why do you identify so strongly with people that actually don't live in Los Angeles?
because when I was 5 years old, somebody on a Sunday afternoon turned on the football game, and I saw these helmets with the horns on it.
Oh yeah, it is cool.
And ever since then, and it didn't hurt that Brent Musburger was doing the game. So there's a Brent associated with the horns.
I'm kind of glad it wasn't a satanic cult. Well, think if you saw something with horns and it was a satanic cult.
Yeah, there was no
and said,
blood.
Whoa, that
so-
was awesome. I'm going to be one of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on a satanic cult now.
All right, we got to wrap this up.
Yes,
Although this
we-
has been awesome.
This has been one of the best ever.
Although,
Well, meaning we're so sad
And
we
let's
have to
make
wrap
sure we
it
got
up.
the proper placement
yes,
there.
please. This is the full credit.
Okay, so what are we going to be talking about 5 years from now in this area? What is it going to look like?
Wow,
Last question.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
We're waiting for you, man. You
Yeah.
can't turn this one on us.
Well,
I've
Jed-
got the close-up on them.
Oh, you're sure.
nice job. I mean, when I think about I told my wife the other day that it's not about the future, it's about the near present. So when I think about 5 years, I go completely numb, because what's going to happen in the next 5 months? I mean, think about our political situation for a
Oh
second.
God, do we have to?
No. So, in terms of what are we talking about? We're talking about podcasting.
Let's say
This
broadcasting.
kind of medium, yeah.
Broadcasting.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to be. There's a certain joy to be able to sit down, have a conversation with somebody, and not know where it's going to go, but you're capable of being able to express yourself. And then if you understand how to use social media to project that into a group of people that you think might be appreciating what you're doing, I think that's it's a very exciting thing, and I think it's going to change everything about what we consider to be news, entertainment, politics, and music.
All right, listen, I have one more question I got to ask. I hate to do this, but he said something. What in the world is the near present?
Well, that's how I think about it.
No, but I understand that, but I have
Yeah,
no...
I'm not
how can
predicting. I'm not predicting the future, because the future depends upon the present.
Given that I was an
So-
English and journalism major,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time understanding the concept of the near present, meaning
Well,
the present
hopefully.
is present, not near present. It can't be nearly
It's just a
present.
conceptual kind of feel. Like
it
when
the
I was
idea of-
talking before about when you're talking to the microphone. When I talk into the microphone, I'm talking to somebody. I'm not talking to an audience. I'm talking to a representation of somebody that I would like to appreciate some idea or move on. You
So
know,
it's sort of like then, well, I really don't want to forecast anything.
No, I think it's really a powerful thing. If you
The
think
near
about what
present.
time travel movies always show, they always come back to the same time. Oddly, if they had the ability to be able to move into the future, why wouldn't they just stay there?
Because
Because
it would be a lousy movie.
I don't think so. I mean, I liked
Be a lousy
Back to the Future was, which
but
were the.
they came back.
I didn't like the Old West one. I thought
But they
that was
came back
crappy.
from Back to the Future.
Yeah,
That's what
but
I'm
they
saying, they
were.
came back to the
but
present.
they had a certain. They were endowed with a certain worldview that predicted the idea that we weren't going to destroy the air and the planet. So there's a little optimism to it. So it's the near.
So
Near is
It's a
something that
change
you
that-
can do something about, as opposed to.
no, I got that. Look, this will literally go past
just
what
trying
we
to
have
rationalize
to do.
now.
I got exactly what you
Well, what is it?
metaphorically
What am I
meant.
saying then?
The present, not the near present. That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to say. The present. That's all. Which
All
is
right.
the word near.
I've got the even near present, which is we're getting out of here, folks.
All right.
Off switch.
All right. This has been awesome.
The best.
Well,
We
I
appreciate you
being
coming in.
invited.
There will be
I
more.
hope that nothing was recorded, but
It was all on mute.
And on that note, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
and Gilmore Gang.
We're out.
Yes, we are.